All right, George, come on in.
What's up? What's up? Oh. All right. Good to be here finally.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
We were trying to get you here for a while. How are you?
It's been a while. Good, man. How are you?
Good. Can't complain. So why don't you start by introducing yourself and what you do?
Sure. So my name's George. Publicly known as Markos, right? I own two party brands, Baraki Events, Ilios Project, part of Momentum Media as well. Doing stuff all over the place, extremely busy, but it's good. I love it. What have you been up to, man?
Whatever. We've been cranking over
Been
here.
busy.
at DaVinci.
Good.
Yeah. We're just happy to finally sit down with you and get this interview
Good,
rolling.
man. Yeah, I'm excited.
So I wanted to start off by because obviously you're a DJ, you know, and
Right.
I would say like that is one of your many talents that you have.
Sure.
But I really want to get into like your upbringing with music.
Yeah.
So like, why don't you kind of walk me through like, at what point did did music really become like a staple in your life?
Sure. So I would say music in general has always been a part of my life, right? I started playing guitar, piano, really got into piano at one point. Parents forcing you to go to music lessons, the whole 9 yards, right? I guess I took it more seriously when I started playing around, DJing. That would have to been a couple years ago. Now like 10 years ago, right? 14, 15 years old. At that time, it was just, iPad in front of parents, yaya papu, cousins, whatever. I think at around 16 or 17, started doing more private stuff, doing more of the gig world was graduation parties, weddings, baptisms, that kind of thing, right? Started introducing the bar scene, club scene, going from then on. Now, I was playing in Greece at the time because I was too young to play. But yeah, ever since then, man, started Baraki Events with my two partners, Nico and Tom. They kind of brought me in on that. Started Ilios Project with Andrea. That's been taken off recently. But yeah, that's in 2 minutes, the story of my life,
Very nice.
Yeah.
Walk me through that experience of what it's like to be at the helm of a DJ set when you're performing for a group of people.
Sure.
Like walk me through like the
Sure.
euphoric feeling, like your creative process.
Yeah,
Like let me hear all
definitely.
about it.
Definitely. It's very, very different and not something that, it's not movie-like, right? When you see and you hear artists talk and they say like, oh, I played my track and everybody was screaming and it was like, heaven on earth, whatever. There's a lot more than that because the 5 songs you played beforehand, you're nervous, you're shaking, you get those things, right? One of my biggest shows was this past, I want to say a couple months ago, we were in Montreal. I was with Yoko Luna. Shout out Andrew Poulos, he'll see this. So we were there. We did not expect the crowd we got. You're talking like 2-3 days before, we had like 200, 300 tickets sold, right? And you're talking a venue that fits, a lot. Anyway, you're going through it, right? You're going through the motions, and we're sitting there for dinner because it's a supper club, and it's like every table's packed. We're like, now it's game time, right? So we're going through it. The feeling of playing now some of the biggest tracks, including my own record, was just insane. Nervous for sure, because when you get onto a stage like that, and you have an expectation in your mind of what people are going to say and how they're going to react, but you never know. You could do something and throw off the vibe, or you could mess up and you don't get those hands in the air moment, right? But it all went well. Played those peak time 7 to 10 tracks were just insane. The feeling is it's crazy. You're in control now of 700 to 900 people. Like you set the vibe, like you tell them basically how, like if you're gonna have fun, you're gonna do it my way. Like that's how you gotta think of it. But it's very, very cool. Very, very different. Very different from anything else I've experienced. And it's addicting. So, you know, we're here now.
What's the greatest response you've gotten from an audience?
From an audience, it was definitely, I don't want to say it's, you know, you play something and you just hear the generic scream and like this and that. It's always about you get off your set, how many people like were like, this was amazing, you know, how many people do you have an impact on, right? It's after the set, how many, you know, you go through as a DJ. Every DJ can relate to this. Every artist can relate to this. You sit in your hotel room after a road show at like 5 in the morning, because this just happened to me, right? And you're going through all your tags, they tagged in their story, tagged in your story, and then you're reading DMs. Usually it's requests, right? But I'm not on my phone. Anyway, you go through your DM and you're like, people literally say, you know, this was the best set of my life, or please let me know when you're coming back, or, you know, you just gained a fan. That's the reaction that is the most impactful. Like, you can scream as much as you want, you can put your hands up, whatever. To really make a difference, like, that's what really pushes, you know, I'm speaking generally in artists to keep going, along with your individual push. But those moments are just, it's really almost the same feeling as being there and playing. It's crazy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
When it comes time to like you picking the songs for a respective set, let's
Sure.
just say, or performance.
Sure.
Do you go in with a set of like songs, like, okay, I'm gonna play 1 to 10 songs, these are the songs, and how much is it like improvised depending
Sure.
on the moment? Like, walk me through that.
So I've been asked this a lot from like, even like people greeting me when I get there, right? Or people like, oh, are you doing this live? It's different for everybody. For every artist, you approach it differently because you have a different mindset going into one show versus another. And what I like to do, right, when you think of where I play, because I own 2 very different, you know, brands, 2 different parties, what I play and when I play it and how I play it vary greatly. So I'll kind of like dig in a little bit into each one, just very briefly. When I do Elios Project is a brand that I utilize to bring the European sound to America. When you do that, the last thing I want is for somebody in the crowd to be like, he played this last time. There's no reason for me to come again, right? People haven't heard this sound here, or it's not really popularized yet, right? When you move to a brand like that and you're ready, like I just headlined the last show on Saturday, had around 500 people. And you have to think now, I have to keep these people engaged and keep them on their toes. So what I do for that usually is, you know, the week before, the 2 weeks before, I'll listen to what other people are playing, right? It's not about copying, it's about being influenced and influencing other people. So you take my biggest influences, you know, DJs in Greece, in Madrid specifically, in Ibiza, and, you know, you kind of listen to what they're doing and listen to how they're, you know, controlling a crowd or what they're playing and things like that. And I'll take my personal, you know, favorite 20 tracks that I'm listening to at the moment, put them in a playlist. I'll take 10 tracks that I know are gonna hit. They might not be, you know, my absolute favorite, but I know I can implement them, right? And I'll put those in the same playlist. After that, that's the prep, that's it. I find that if I sit there and be like, I'm gonna play this song, and then this song, and then this song, and then this song, it's not genuine. How are you gonna develop a connection with the crowd, with the people that paid to be there to see you, if you're just gonna give them a routine? You know, you have to personalize everything, you know? Like, let's say, I'll take a great example. I'm in Montreal. I keep bringing this up because I love Andrew. Shout out to Andrew. I love Andrew. When I play tracks there, I can play French tracks that I couldn't play here, and I'll have the biggest reactions. Why? It's because I'll play this famous a cappella over, a song I'm jamming to anyway. But that personalization, that 30 seconds, literally 30 seconds of an a cappella that I played related to 20 people out there, and they had the time of their lives. You know what I mean? Switching gears now to Baraki. So Baraki is a Greek club atmosphere, right? Bringing specifically what people designed nightlife to be in Greece here. You're not going to get like the old stuff. Well, you might, but you're not going to get, you're going to get for sure the new stuff, what's popping in Greece. This is your teleport portal into Athens or into wherever you are, right? Into that nightlife. How I prepare for that is I know what's going to hit. There's classic Greek tracks that I know are hitting in Greece, I know are hitting here. And you kind of, the way I separate my Greek music is basically by genre. So going genre by genre. And there's a flow. I play with another DJ, Dino, when we usually do Greek nights, and there's a flow. When you do Greek, it's a little bit different because you don't want people to get tired of the same genre, right? You can't play this certain type of music. You can't play trap the whole time. You can't play, Galamatiana the whole time. You can't play, Tsiftetelia the whole time, right? So it's much more reading the crowd, much more feeling the vibes, much more like, oh, these people are, you see the bottle service coming out. What's going to get them really excited? That's going to get this moment, like they're going to put on their stories and everybody's going to get FOMO because they weren't there, right? So that's how I kind of go into a set. Nothing, unless I do, an edit, some of my own edits or some of my own records, nothing will be pre-recorded or anything like that. Everything's live because, again, the whole point of an artist or a DJ being there is to develop a connection. These people, again, they paid for you to play for them. I'm not I'm providing a service at the end of the day. So that's how I see performing.
Yeah.
I know we get a little off topic of what you said, but
No, not at all.
that's, yeah.
No, beautiful.
Yeah.
So one thing I actually want to ask you about is, because I'm happy you explained both of the respective brands
Sure.
that you are a part of, because with Ilios Project, you're trying to bring that European culture when
Right.
it comes to clubbing
Right.
to America. I hope that's a good way of explaining
Yeah, it's like mainly Afro house, deep house, melodic, that kind of.
Yeah. But there is a common theme that I'm noticing, and you did reference this a little bit earlier, which I kind of wanted to ask you about, which is like, you mentioned that a big part of your upbringing as a DJ was you DJing in Greece.
Yeah.
For quite a while.
Sure.
And my question to you is, how important was that Greek and overall European influence on you as a DJ for you to come back here and kind of get yourself more established as an artist here?
Right. So I started DJing there a lot earlier than I started DJing here in terms of nightlife. Private gigs don't really exist out there. It's not something that I ever did. In terms of nightlife, though, it was definitely more, what are people playing here that gets these crazy reactions? Like, why is European nightlife so famous? You always have that question, and you're behind the wheel now, and it's like, okay, here we go. Like that, you have to learn from the vets. You sit there, you play, opening sets for nobody, but the guy after you has developed a reputation, developed a name, and this is why he's doing what he's doing. And a lot of the gigs and a lot of the events that I would take there was to learn. You learn the people, because people react differently. You learn the artistry of what it means to mix and play for a crowd that's not your typical people that I was used to. But I would just, I think it's a common thing or a well-known thing that music hits there before it hits here, right? European, Greece, Spain, Portugal, famous nightlife, Berlin, they get music and they know music way sooner than we know music. I think a lot of that is because a lot of Americans go to Europe, or specifically Greece in this case, in the summer. You can listen to it on Spotify, sure, but if you don't live that in the summer, you won't come back saying, oh, I love this song, you know, whatever, like I was here. You start doing the mental connections, and then you come to the events, and I'm playing the same music. And hopefully you're getting those same connections. So that's, I think, a big reason of why playing in Greece was so important. I mean, not was, but is so important, because we're doing a whole thing this year. But that's the main reason of why, you know, kind of playing in Greece, playing in Europe, sitting and watching and doing those tedious gigs that, like, for nobody, 5, 6 people, for like you're playing for the bar staff, right? Mm-hmm. But it's great. It's great. You got to learn somehow.
Yeah. It's actually interesting, because I feel like the more digital music has become over the past 20 years, I feel like and I want your opinion on this, I feel like it's a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Because I feel like it offers easier access to a different, like a wider range of different types of music.
Yeah.
But it also kind of does hinder the opportunity to experience that music in the way that you just referenced, the idea of being there and in the moment.
Right.
Can you give me your opinion on that?
Yeah. So I know a couple of guys that grew up obviously playing on records, playing on CDs. Back then, how they used to describe it to me was, if you wanted to hear new music, you had to find it. You know, you had to go to your, you know, resident club that you would go to every weekend, and hopefully that residence got that track that you didn't know would be your favorite track, you know? Back then it was more, you would go to certain places or certain locations in Europe, in Chicago, in the US as a whole, in North America. You'd hear different styles. Because of the digitalization and communication now of music, and the globalization of how easy it is to upload a track or to make a record in general, because now, I mean, the path is, you have a laptop, you're good, right? Before you needed analog gear, you needed studios, you needed engineers. You know, now it's not really like that. I think it's good and bad. I think it's good because artists that normally wouldn't have the means to do that, nor the funds to be able to cultivate their creativity, now are able to, right? On the other hand, you have two sides. One, as soon as music's released, it's commercialized. That's it. So now the unreleased market has just exploded. You know, if you don't have this person's, you know, your favorite artist's unreleased track, like, that's the thing people are yearning for now, right? It's always, you try to get what you can't have, basically. Now, when you look towards the other side of, maybe there's too much music putting out, and there's the argument that too much music means shitty music. I don't necessarily agree with that, because for you, or for some kid in his basement to put out a record, he liked it. And for him, that's an expression of who he is. Why diminish that because you don't like it? Or everyone else doesn't like it. Even if everyone else doesn't like it, if he likes it, it doesn't matter, right? And now it's public. You can publicize those things. And I think that's important. That's important. I mean, that leads us to, you know, the whole social media game of music, the whole, you know, marketing game of music. It's become its own business, you know? There's degrees on it now you can get, music business, so it's crazy.
Yeah, that was actually very well put.
Yeah.
One of my favorite quotes, and I forgot who said it, but it was something along the lines of, the best art is art that is finished and released into the world.
Right, 100%. Yeah.
So, very well put.
Very, very, very smart.
So we're gonna move into a different area now. Yeah. Just kind of more like general questions.
Sure.
So you've been to a plethora of cities.
Yeah. A
lot in North America, but also all over the world.
Sure.
Let's start with North America. Why don't you tell me your favorite city to perform in North America, and why?
Montreal. I had to think about that for 5 seconds, because Chicago will always have a special place, but Montreal has been so unbelievably reactive to what I'm doing there, not only the music I play, but the brand I'm pushing and the projects that I'm bringing to them, that the support is just insane, skyrocketed, right? And they're, you know, the people are so, how do I put this? Well receiving of what I'm doing, that it's crazy. It's absolutely nuts. Chicago's obviously a very, very close second. I mean, we did, speaking of, you know, famous cities for nightlife, like we had done Miami a couple months ago. I mean, that was crazy too. That was great. I love the whole, you know, Miami City in general as a city is, their nightlife's, you know, unmatched. But for me personally, when I play and when I like to, when I say to myself like, oh, 2025, pick a gig, right? I think Montreal is it.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And what would you say is your favorite city outside of North America that you love playing in?
That's tough. That's tough. It's tough because I haven't done a lot, but.
All right, I could, well, tell me, answer that, and I have a follow-up question
Okay.
for you.
So I'll answer that with I'll let you know in 2 months, because we have a Greece tour coming out, and I have legit 10 or 11 cities that I'm going to be doing. But from what I've done right now, playing, we had played 2 years ago down in Kalamata by me. This was one of the first bigger Greece gigs that we had done. It was me and my buddy Nicolo. And the support that we got, because it was one of our first big things, and we were like, you know, it was all of our friends that were there. It was a huge, you know, friend gathering party. And that, you know, that atmosphere of like, I can literally play whatever and they're gonna scream and they're gonna love it and we're gonna have a good time. That for me was great. That for me was great. But I'll have a better answer for you in September when I come back.
Awesome. What's one city in the world that you really want to play in one day?
One city. Obviously, it's everyone's dream to play Ibiza, right? The Mykonos is there too. But, you know, playing in a place like Ibiza where the stuff that you do, what I like about Ibiza, right? It's not the artist that's celebrated, it's the music. You know, there's spots in Ibiza where you go into the nightclub, you can't see the DJ. That's what's important, what I think, for the culture. You know, playing at like, obviously this is a little bit more commercial, but a dream, right? Playing at like a place like Pasha, or playing at like Ushuaia or High. You know, so one of the bigger clubs out there would just dream venue. But if we're gonna talk, you know, Greece, Scorpio is on there, very much my vibe. But yeah. I'm actually doing one of the venues that I had been wanting to play for a while. We're doing Cabana in Baro.
Nice.
So that's a beach club. It's on the bucket list for sure, so I can check that one off after the summer.
Nice.
It'll be good.
Very random question.
Yeah.
I like asking this
You
type
have
of
to.
question.
Go ahead, shoot.
You're stuck on a deserted island,
Oh,
and you only have
come on, man.
You only have one artist's catalog that you can listen to. Who are you picking and why?
Who am I picking and why? How long am I on this deserted island?
Let's say for the rest of your life.
Dude. Okay. He's not my favorite artist ever, but it has to be Black Coffee, and I'll tell you why. This man has had a foot in every genre, co-produced on Drake's album, Honestly Nevermind, right? So I can listen to all of that shit. His influence and his remixes and the stuff that he's been able to have his hand in and have his influence on, and his catalog has to be, I mean, countless albums and records when you think about collaborations and when you think about co-producing and when you think about stuff that he's not even the main producer on. It's crazy. But yeah, Black Coffee, for sure.
Great answer.
For sure.
Let's talk about now the people that are in your corner with all
Yeah.
the things that you're doing. You know, because obviously, like, you know, you do a lot of work, but I know I've been to a couple of your events, and I see that there's a lot of other
Yeah.
people that are in your corner too.
It is not just me.
Yeah. If you want, can you take the time right now to just
Yeah.
give them a shout out?
Yeah, for sure. First and foremost, Nico and Tom. Day one, side note about Baraiki, they started Baraiki. I have to give them credit. They started Baraiki, and while I was doing club stuff and while they were doing club stuff, they had reached out, and we kind of came together and built this beautiful, beautiful brand. But yeah, Nico and Tom, great, great guys. Always, always supportive. And even in times where I want to do stuff and they either say no or recommend against it, it's always because they have the best intentions for the brand in mind. And you have to have those people, because if, let's say, me and you start something and we're always in agreement, we're never going to grow. It's never going to happen. You're always just, if you're my yes man, no one's ever going to tell me no. How am I going to break any barriers? How am I going to grow at all? You know, that's the biggest thing in anything. Another shout out, Andrea came to me at a Hellenic gala and pitched the idea of Ilios to me. And since then, been 50-50 on everything. Kid's a great kid. We've been, talk about like quick growth. You know, you're talking, we started where we're like a year plus old, maybe a couple months. A year and a couple months old. And to see this sort of support from them, from Billy Argo, his support, Vinny, all of the guys that I hang out with, I'll like quickfire them. Chris, Chesco, Jock, who else? Sandro, all the Italians, all the Greeks, everybody. Guys that have been doing high school parties with me, junior high parties with me. Guys that, have always just been in my corner and supporting and come to all the events. And, I ask them like, hey, come DJ for me, come do this for me, come help me set up, come help me take down. Like I'll never get a no. But yeah, there's way more people. Vasily, Ivan, my media guys. Way more people that I should be thanking that I'm blanking out right now. But they know their worth. They definitely do. But yeah.
Yeah. Having that community in your corner is probably the most important thing.
It's very, very encouraging. Why? Because it shows me that there's more that I can do and that I'm doing something right now, right? I thinking, even though they hate it, my parents, obviously, they hate when I go out, nightlife, this and that, but, they've given me most of my connections doing those church functions, doing those, Greek parties, I got to thank them for those connections too, so. But yeah, having that community, having that support system when you're, completely forgot about my whole Montreal team. So I apologize for that. Andrew, Costa, Kyriako, Jim, all those guys, man, they work tirelessly. When you know how tough it is to run a party in another country and you only get one day to get there and make sure everything's cool. So they do so much. And yeah, great crew out there. But yeah, again, support system's everything. If you don't have a support system, it's very tough. Going at it alone, you have to tackle everything. Your own marketing, your own socials, your own venue communications, your own client communications, everything. Your own, even producing, mixing, everything. It's tough, but it's good.
Beautiful.
It's good.
I have just a couple more questions for you.
Well, you want to quick fire some questions? Let's do it.
Yeah. I have a couple. I just
only
have a handful of questions for you.
Yeah, go ahead.
What would you like to see from both yourself and the brand in 10 years?
I've always said this. Baraiki is probably the most expandable brand on the planet because you're bringing something that's not there, right? For example, shout out to my Australian team too. We're doing Australia in November, Sydney, Melbourne. That's where I want to see Baraki in 10 years. I want to see us being able to go into every city and, even me not being there personally, but being able to see that brand grow in every city and watching people love and cultivate and really represent the Greek culture, and having somewhere where, the youth of the Greek community can mingle and, meet their future wife, or shake hands with their future business partner, or, listen to those songs that they can only get in Greece. That's where I see Baraki. Ilios, I see a little bit differently because it's something that I do take influence from other brands like Circo Loco, brands like Ants. There's a ton of, Music On. There's a ton of brands that have not done this before specifically, but that have been down this route, and getting into artist representation, getting into distribution, getting into record labels, getting into festival ownership, and all starting small. And it's all about setting a good foundation. It's all about getting those right people in the right places and moving up from there. So I think that's, in 10 years, a long answer, but a good one. So
awesome. All right. I actually think I just have one more question for you. Well, actually, more so just like a general statement. Why don't you tell the people what's in store for you and for your respective brands between now and for the rest of the year? Why don't you tell us?
So we'll start Baraki hosting probably one of the most, she's gotten the most traction in the recent years is anything. We're hosting Anastasia at an arena in Willowbrook. So we're doing one of our biggest productions in October. In November we moved to Australia, along with a couple Montreal gigs, hopefully to throw LA and Miami back in the mix. So I'm going to be traveling a lot with Baraki, expanding and trying to really explode our social presence and explode who we are and what we can do. For Ilios, we're going to be bringing artists that have never seen the US before. We're going to bring artists that don't see Chicago as a market. We're bringing guys that, headline Ibiza but aren't known here. And really bringing and driving that sound with new venues, more artists, more cities. We're doing, talk about near future, we're doing F1, the Formula One Grand Prix after party, doing 4 shows in Montreal in 2 weeks. Then we moved to Greece, big Greece tour, a lot of, brand representation out there, making sure that we're well represented, my music is well represented. And after that, you're talking rest of the year, there's a lot. We have a couple big artists, I can't say a lot, but a couple big artists that are coming, hopefully by the end of the year, hopefully shock the Chicago market back to its dance roots, right? For me personally, I have a record coming out hopefully before July, finishing up the production on that, trying to get maybe an EP together with Echo in Montreal, trying to do that before maybe Halloween time, and I think that's it. I say that's it, but it's a lot. I say that's it though, but there's a lot in store, especially for 2026, but for the near future, I guess you can call it that.
Great.
That's good.
Well, on a personal level, I just want to say that I've known you for quite a few years now, and seeing your growth has been wonderful, and I've been wanting to get you on one of these DaVinci Muses for a long time.
I appreciate it.
And I think you have a very great balance of creativity, but also phenomenal business acumen. But I think most importantly, you practice humility extremely well.
Yeah.
And
I'm no better than anyone here, and you cannot think you're better, because at the end of the day, I'm there to serve the crowd, because if they don't enjoy it, I'm nobody, So it's all about, where I can be, how I can grow, and who I can serve. It's not about me as Markos or me as Ilios or Baraki. It's not about that. Not about that.
Well, I'm very excited to see what's in store for you, bro.
Me too. It's gonna be great.
I got big hopes, dude.
Good. Hopefully I can fulfill some of them.
All right, great. All right, well, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
All right, that's a wrap.